Sunset Cove is a small town nestled along the western coast of America, where gentle waves lap against shimmering golden sands and rows of coconut trees sway in the breeze. The town lacks towering buildings or the blaring honks of traffic, featuring only narrow cobblestone streets, eateries fragrant with the scent of freshly baked bread, and the sound of locals' laughter mingling with the salty sea air. Summer's approaching, and the town buzzes with preparations for the Shark Festival, an annual event filled with fishing competitions, live music on the beach, and colorful craft stalls. The people of Sunset Cove live slowly, cherishing the tranquility, but they're not naive. They know that sometimes strange winds from the outside can bring trouble. On an early summer morning, golden sunlight bathes the beach, where a tall, imposing man jogs along the water's edge. He wears a gray tank top, revealing broad shoulders and muscles that seem carved from stone. His short black hair glistens with sweat, and his wide smile lights up his sun-tanned face. Beside him, two dogs bound playfully. Titan, a brown Labrador with sparkling eyes and a tirelessly wagging tail, and Rex, a German shepherd with a stern demeanor, moving with vigilant steps. The locals, accustomed to familiar faces in the town, can't help but turn their heads. This man is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, or simply The Rock as people call him, a famous movie star, but here just a temporary visitor in Sunset Cove. The Rock arrived a few days ago, renting a small wooden house by the beach with a porch overlooking the ocean. After months of grueling work on film sets, he sought a quiet place to unwind, far from the spotlight and city noise. Here he lives simply, jogging each morning with Titan and Rex, sipping coffee at the Seabreeze Cafe, and occasionally chatting with locals in his warm, friendly baritone. Despite his towering, powerful presence, The Rock has a way of putting people at ease. He doesn't flaunt his fame or demand attention, content to enjoy sunny days with his loyal dogs. The Seabreeze Cafe sits at the heart of town with small wooden tables outdoors and the aroma of coffee blending with the sea breeze. The owner, Maggie, is a middle-aged woman with curly light brown hair and a constant smile. An animal lover, she quickly befriends Titan and Rex. Whenever The Rock stops by, she brings out a plate of homemade biscuits, setting it down for the dogs with a playful wink. "They're my most special guests," she often says. And The Rock just laughs heartily, replying, "You're spoiling them, Maggie." Maggie's son, Tommy, is a skinny 12-year-old with bright eyes and a fierce passion for movies. He recognized The Rock the moment he first stepped into the cafe. To Tommy, The Rock isn't just a stranger. He's a real-life hero who's battled giant monsters and raced cars on the big screen. Since then, Tommy hovers around The Rock, peppering him with questions about stunts, weightlifting, or how to get strong. The Rock always answers patiently, sometimes teasing, "You want to be as strong as me? Eat your veggies and don't skip a workout, kid." One morning, as usual, The Rock sits on an outdoor bench at Seabreeze, holding a cup of black coffee while Titan sprawls at his feet and Rex sits upright, scanning the surroundings. Tommy sits across from him, describing a model fishing boat he's building for the Shark Festival. "Tell me about it in detail," the boy says, eyes gleaming. "I want to make a ship like the ones in your movies, fast, strong, and unbeatable." The Rock lets out a booming laugh. "Good thinking, kid. But remember, real strength isn't just about speed or muscles. It's in here, too." He taps his chest, over his heart. Tommy nods, though he doesn't fully grasp the meaning yet. Just then, Maggie emerges from the counter, carrying a tray of biscuits for Titan and Rex. "You two look extra happy today," she says, patting Titan's head. The dog wags his tail so hard it shakes the wooden table. The Rock takes a sip of coffee, smiling. "They love it here, peaceful, no noise. Exactly what I needed." But not everyone feels so at ease. An older man sitting nearby, dressed in a faded plaid shirt, gazes out through the cafe's large window. He sips his tea, then speaks in a low voice. "Peaceful, sure, but it's not always like that." Maggie turns, frowning. "What do you mean, Hank?" Hank sets his teacup down, his eyes distant. "A few years back, a gang of bikers roared into town. Big, mean guys. They smashed some stuff, scared a few vendors, and only left after Sheriff Clara stepped in." He pauses, glancing at The Rock. "If they come back, I hope you're around to handle them, friend." The Rock raises an eyebrow, his smile unwavering. "If they show up, I'll give them a free workout. No problem. His tone is light, but something in his eyes, a sharp glint, makes Hank nod slowly, as if he believes this man isn't just joking. Maggie shakes her head, chuckling. I doubt they dare come back. Sheriff Clara's not one to mess with. Neither are you, right, Rock? She winks, then heads inside for more coffee. Sheriff Clara, Sunset Cove's police chief, is a tough woman in her 40s with short dark brown hair and a sturdy build. She always wears a neat uniform, sunglasses, and a holstered pistol on her belt. Not for show, but as a reminder she means business. Clara loves this town and has spent years keeping it safe. Still, she can't be everywhere at once, especially with the Shark Festival nearing, bringing a slew of security checks on the outskirts. The Rock gazes out at the sea, where small waves ripple against the shore. Titan yawns, stretching out on the sand, while Rex remains upright, ears perked as if sensing something. He strokes Rex's head, murmuring, Easy, buddy, nothing's up. But deep down, he feels a flicker of curiosity. Those bikers Hank mentioned, who were they? And if they returned, would Sunset Cove's peace shatter? He doesn't know that just a few miles away, a group of men gathers around gleaming motorcycles, engines rumbling and ready. Vance Ironjaw Malone, their leader, smirks, revealing bright white teeth in the sunlight. Sunset Cove, he rasps. Been a while since we paid a visit. I hear they've got a festival coming up. Maybe we should drop by and liven things up, huh? His crew roars with laughter, the sound blending with the wind. They don't realize this time, the little town has a guest they shouldn't cross. The Rock takes another sip of coffee, sets the cup down, and looks at Tommy. You're right, kid, he says. A strong ship is good, but a strong man is better. Tommy nods, eyes blazing with excitement. In that moment, no one at Seabreeze knows that, in just a few hours, the Rock's true strength will be tested. Not on a movie set, but right in the middle of Sunset Cove's quiet streets. From a distance, a low rumble begins to echo, at first resembling the whistle of wind through the trees, but growing clearer by the moment, the roar of motorcycle engines. The chatter at Seabreeze gradually dies down as people turn their heads toward the main road leading into town. Hank, the older man sitting nearby, frowns and sets his teacup on the table. I told you, he mutters, his voice a mix of worry and irritation. They're back. The Rock turns his head, his sharp gaze sweeping the road. He spots a cloud of dust rising, then one by one motorcycles emerge, gleaming under the sunlight. There are about 8 of them, each ridden by someone in a black leather jacket, long hair whipping in the wind. Leading the pack is a tall man with a ponytail and a vivid red dragon tattoo snaking down his arm. He stops his bike in the middle of the road just a few meters from Seabreeze, kills the engine, and smirks, revealing bright white teeth. This is Vance Ironjaw Malone, the notorious leader of a biker gang known throughout the region. Vance's crew pulls up behind him, forming a horizontal line. Spike, a wiry guy with dyed red hair and shifty eyes, hops off his bike first, clutching an open beer can. He tosses it to the ground, smirking as the liquid splashes across the sidewalk. Big Tina, a hulking woman with arms as muscular as any man's, steps down next, crossing her arms and surveying the scene like she's sizing up prey. Lastly, Joey, a skinny young man with hair covering half his face, lingers behind Vance, looking far more timid than the rest. He stays quiet, shrinking into the background. Sunset Cove, Vance announces loudly, his raspy voice cutting through the still air. Look at this town. Pretty, peaceful, and boring as hell. I think we should spice things up a bit, don't you? He laughs heartily, his crew joining in, their cackles echoing down the narrow street. The people at Seabreeze begin to murmur. Some stand and edge closer to the cafe door, while others sit frozen, eyes wide with unease. Maggie steps out from behind the counter, hands on her hips, staring Vance down. If you're here to cause trouble, you'd better go somewhere else. We don't welcome it here. Vance turns to Maggie, raising an eyebrow. Oh, this pretty lady's got a mouth on her. I don't take orders, though. He strides closer, his black leather boots clacking against the pavement. Spike follows, tossing an old motorcycle glove back and forth in his hands, looking for something to break. The Rock watches it all from his seat, his hand resting on Titan's head. He doesn't stand yet, just observes silently, but his eyes have shifted, no longer the relaxed warmth of the morning, but the keen focus of someone who's faced danger before. Tommy whispers beside him, "Uncle Rock, are those the guys Hank was talking about? They look scary." "Don't worry, kid," the Rock replies, his voice low but steady. "Scary doesn't mean strong. Just sit tight." He winks at Tommy, but his grip tightens slightly on the edge of the wooden table. Vance and his crew are now right in front of Seabreeze. He glances around, his gaze landing on Titan, the Labrador who's tilting his head curiously at the strangers. "Look at this dog," Vance says, sneering. "Living better than me. What do you think, Spike?" Spike laughs loudly, hurling the glove in his hand straight at Titan. It hits the dog's back, startling him. Titan yelps once and steps back, while Rex immediately stands, hackles raised, a low growl rumbling in his throat. The Rock rises to his feet, towering like a mountain in the cafe's small space. He steps toward Vance, his voice deep and clear. "Throwing stuff at my dog isn't a smart move, friend." The crowd in the cafe holds its breath, but Vance just smirks, unfazed. "Who are you to tell me what to do?" Vance retorts, crossing his arms. "You're big, sure, but I'm not scared of muscleheads playing hero." Spike and Big Tina laugh uproariously, though Joey stays silent, his eyes darting nervously toward the Rock. The Rock doesn't respond immediately. He bends down, picks up the glove Spike threw, and holds it in his hand, locking eyes with Vance. "I don't like trouble," he says slowly, "but if you mess with what's mine, you'll find some." He tosses the glove back at Vance's feet, the throw just strong enough to make it roll a few times across the road. Vance narrows his eyes but then bursts into laughter. "Who do you think you are? Some movie superhero? I hear this town's got a festival coming up. We're just here to join the fun. What are you going to do about it?" He steps closer, so close the Rock can smell the beer and tobacco on his breath. Maggie jumps in, her voice urgent. "That's enough. I'm calling Sheriff Clara. Get out of here." But Vance waves her off, dismissing her words like they're nothing. "Sheriff, she's not here, I know that. We can do whatever we want before she shows up." The Rock tilts his head, sizing Vance up from head to toe. "You sure about that?" he asks, his tone light but carrying an unmistakable weight. Vance smirks, turning to his crew. "Listen to this guy. Thinks he's hot stuff." Big Tina steps forward, standing beside Vance, her muscled arms flexing as if ready to strike. Spike hangs back, grabbing another beer from his bike's bag, sipping it and snickering. Tommy, still at the table, clutches his sketchbook, whispering to his mom. "Mom, what's Uncle Rock gonna do? There's more of them than him." Maggie rests a hand on his shoulder, her voice trembling. "I don't know, Tommy, but I think they just picked the wrong guy to mess with." Out on the street, Vance decides to push things further. He eyes Titan, now sitting calmly by the Rock's feet, and smirks. "This dog looks tasty. Maybe I should take him for a ride with us." He steps forward, reaching for Titan's leash, but before his hand can make contact, the Rock moves in front of the dog, swift as a gust of wind. "Don't," the Rock says, his voice so low it seems to thicken the air around him. "You don't want to try that." Rex at his side growls louder, poised to lunge if given the command. Vance freezes, a flicker of anger flashing in his eyes. He's not used to being challenged, especially not in front of his crew. "You threatening me?" he snarls, clenching his fist. "I'm Vance Ironjaw Malone. No one talks to me like that," and walks away in one piece. The Rock smiles, but it's not the friendly grin from earlier. It's the smile of a man who knows he holds the upper hand. "I'm not threatening," he says. "I'm warning. You, Vance, go ahead and try whatever you want." The townsfolk around Seabreeze have gathered now, watching from a distance. A few whisper among themselves, recognizing the Rock from his action films. "Is that Dwayne Johnson?" a woman asks. "I bet those guys don't even know who they're messing with." The man beside her replies, his tone a mix of concern and excitement. Maggie ducks back into the cafe, phone in hand, frantically dialing Sheriff Clara. "Clara, you need to get here now," she says as the call connects. "The bikers are back, and they're facing off with the Rock." On the other end, Clara's voice comes through, calm but tense. "I'm on the outskirts, checking the fishing grounds. Keep things under control. I'll be there as soon as I can." But when Maggie turns back, the situation has escalated. Vance, unwilling to back down from the Rock's challenge, signals Spike. "Go grab the rope from the bike bag," he orders. "I want to see how fast this dog runs when we drag it behind a bike." Spike cackles, darting toward his motorcycle. But before he can retrieve the rope, the Rock steps forward, positioning himself between Vance and Titan. Had enough fun yet? The Rock asks, his voice deep like waves crashing against rock. Because if you want to play, I'll play with you. Vance locks eyes with the Rock, and for the first time, he feels a twinge of unease. The man before him isn't just big, he exudes a presence Vance has never encountered, but his ego is too large to retreat. He smirks, turning to his crew. Look at this guy, thinking he's a big shot. Get ready, boys. I want this town to remember me for a long time. Big Tina nods, stepping closer to Vance, ready to back him up. Spike returns with a coil of rope in hand, sneering. Joey hangs back, his eyes flickering between Vance and the Rock, as if he senses something bad is coming. The Rock stands still, hands relaxed at his sides, but the muscles in his shoulders tense like a beast ready to pounce. Titan and Rex sit behind him, silent but alert. The people of Sunset Cove hold their breath, waiting for something to erupt. And in that moment, no one knows that Vance Ironjaw Malone has just stepped into a fight he can't win. The air in Sunset Cove suddenly grows heavy, as if the entire town is holding its breath before an impending storm. The midday sun beats down on the narrow street in front of Seabreeze, glinting off the polished motorcycles of Vance Ironjaw Malone's gang. Rex, the German shepherd, lets out a low growl that mingles with Spike's snickering laugh and Big Tina's huffed breaths. Vance stands there, holding the coil of rope Spike handed him, his eyes blazing with defiance as he stares at the Rock. He's not used to being defied, and his ego burns fiercely, demanding a victory in front of his crew. The Rock stands in front of Titan, his broad shoulders forming an impenetrable wall. He doesn't move, doesn't raise a hand, just stands there, his sharp eyes locked on Vance. "You want to play," he says, his voice deep like waves crashing against rock. "Then play with me. Leave my dog alone." Vance smirks, tossing the rope to the ground with a dry thud. "Who do you think you are, giving me orders?" he snarls, stepping closer. "I'm Vance Malone. I've broken the bones of guys bigger than you, and I'm not afraid to do it again." He turns to his crew, gesturing. "You see this? This guy thinks he's a superstar. I'll show him what pain feels like." Spike laughs loudly, clapping his hands like he's watching a great show. Big Tina clenches her fists, stepping up beside Vance, her eyes flashing with aggression. Only Joey takes a step back, gripping his motorcycle's handlebars, his gaze flickering between Vance and the Rock. He says nothing, but the tension on his gaunt face betrays his uncertainty about how this will end. The townsfolk of Sunset Cove watch from a distance, clustered in small groups, whispering among themselves. Tommy clutches his sketchbook, his eyes wide with a mix of excitement and worry. "Uncle Rock's gonna win, right, Mom?" he whispers to Maggie. Maggie doesn't answer right away, her hand tightening around the phone she just used to call Sheriff Clara. "I hope so, Tommy," she replies, her voice shaky. "But these guys aren't messing around." Vance decides he's done waiting. He turns to the Rock, smirking. "You want to protect your dog? Fine. I challenge you to a one-on-one. No weapons, no dirty tricks, just you and me. If I win, I take that dog. If you win, we'll leave. Deal?" The Rock tilts his head, sizing Vance up like an opponent in the ring. Then he smiles. Not the friendly grin he'd given Tommy or Maggie, but the smile of a man who knows he's in control. "Deal," he says. "But if I win, you don't just leave. You apologize to my dog in front of everyone." Vance bursts into laughter, the sound echoing down the street. "Apologize to a dog? You're crazy, you bastard. But I'm in. You don't stand a chance anyway." He turns to his crew, motioning them to spread out, forming a circle in the middle of the road. The townsfolk step back too, clearing a space for the two men to face off. The Rock steps into the center of the circle, peeling off his gray tank top to reveal a chiseled, rock-hard physique. He tosses the shirt to the ground, standing tall, hands relaxed at his sides. Titan and Rex sit still behind him, their eyes fixed on Vance as if they're waiting too. Vance shrugs off his leather jacket, exposing tattooed arms and old scars from past fights. He cracks his knuckles, sneering. "Get ready, superstar. I'm gonna break you." The fight begins without a signal. Vance charges forward like a wild animal, throwing a straight punch at the Rock's face. But the Rock doesn't flinch. He leans to the side, dodging the blow effortlessly, then, in a flash, blocks Vance's second punch, clamping down on his wrist with a powerful grip. Vance roars, trying to yank his arm free, but The Rock doesn't budge. He stands firm like a boulder in a raging river. "You're too slow," The Rock says, his voice calm but laced with mockery. Then he twists, using Vance's own momentum to pull him forward, sending him stumbling and crashing to the ground with a heavy thud. Vance's crew gapes, while the people of Sunset Cove cheer, unable to believe their eyes. Vance scrambles to his feet, his face red with rage and humiliation. "You got lucky," he bellows, charging again. This time he unleashes a flurry of punches aimed at The Rock's chest and face. But The Rock moves with astonishing agility, dodging each blow, then suddenly countering with a precise punch to Vance's stomach. It's not overpowering, but it's enough to drop Vance to his knees, clutching his gut and gasping for air. "Told you," The Rock says, standing tall without a bead of sweat on his brow. "I don't like trouble, but you brought it on yourself." Vance grits his teeth, forcing himself back up. He can't accept defeat in front of his crew. "Spike! Tina!" he shouts, his voice hoarse. "Take him!" Big Tina and Spike leap into action, ignoring the one-on-one rule Vance had set. Tina swings a massive fist at The Rock's shoulder, while Spike circles behind, aiming to wrap the rope around his legs. But The Rock is ready. He sidesteps Tina's punch, then grabs her wrist in a flash, twisting it hard and sending her crashing into a trash can by the roadside. The clang of metal rings out, accompanied by Tina's furious yell. Spike, from behind, flings the rope at The Rock's feet, but The Rock steps aside, stomping on the rope and yanking it hard, pulling Spike off balance and face first to the ground. The Rock bends down, grabs Spike by the collar, lifts him like a rag doll, and tosses him aside to land next to Tina, who's still struggling to get up. "You two should stay down," he says, his tone light but icy. Vance, now back on his feet, watches his crew get taken down in seconds, his face pale with fury. You're a freak," he yells, charging one last time, completely out of control. But The Rock doesn't give him a chance. He steps forward, meeting Vance head-on, and delivers a swift, clean punch to his chest. Not overpowering, but enough to send Vance sprawling backward, flat on the road, gasping for breath. The street falls silent for a moment. Vance's crew stands frozen, not daring to move. The people of Sunset Cove, from Hank to the kids watching from afar, stare at The Rock with a mix of awe and disbelief. Tommy jumps up, shouting, "Uncle Rock, you're amazing!" Maggie covers her mouth, stunned by what she's just witnessed. The Rock walks over to Vance, towering over him as he lies there, clutching his chest, his eyes burning with anger, but tinged with fear. "You lost," The Rock says, his voice low and firm. "Now get up and apologize to my dog, like I said." Vance grits his teeth, struggling to sit up, his body trembling with exhaustion and shame. "I'm not apologizing to a dog," he snarls, but his voice cracks, lacking its earlier bravado. The Rock tilts his head, a faint smile playing on his lips. "You don't want to? Fine. But I bet you don't want me to drag you back out here and start over either." He steps closer, his massive shadow falling over Vance like a wordless warning. Vance swallows hard, glancing around. His crew, Spike, Tina, and even Joey, stay silent, offering no support. The townsfolk watch, waiting. Finally, under the weight of The Rock's stare and the oppressive silence, Vance lowers his head and mumbles, "Sorry, to your dog." His voice is barely audible, but it's enough for everyone to know he's conceded. The Rock nods, turning back to Titan and Rex. He kneels, patting Titan's head, then smiles at Rex. "Good job, boys, it's over." Titan wags his tail, while Rex sits down, his eyes still fixed on Vance as if ensuring he won't try anything else. Vance staggers to his feet, his face flushed with humiliation. He signals his crew, his voice raspy. "Get on your bikes, we're out of here." Spike and Tina scramble up, avoiding The Rock's gaze. Joey, the only one who didn't join in, heads to his bike, sneaking a glance at The Rock with a flicker of admiration. But before Vance mounts his motorcycle, The Rock calls out, "Hey, Vance." He pauses, not turning around. "Next time you want to prove you're tough, find something worth protecting instead of bullying people. Real strength isn't what you just did." Vance doesn't reply. He climbs onto his bike, revs the engine, and the roar breaks the silence. His crew follows, and soon the gang disappears into the dust on the road out of Sunset Cove. The townsfolk stand still for a moment, then erupt in cheers and applause. Tommy rushes to the rock, shouting, "You're the best! I knew you'd win!" Maggie steps forward, hand on her chest, breathing a sigh of relief. "I've never seen anything like that," she says. "You're a giant, Rock." Hank from his table nods approvingly. "Told you. Him being here was our luck." The Rock laughs heartily, picking up his tank top and brushing off the dust. "Just a light workout," he says, winking at Tommy. "So what now? Who wants a lemonade?" "My treat." The whole town laughs, and in that moment, Sunset Cove feels something undeniable. They've just been protected by a man not only strong in body, but in spirit, a true giant. The roar of the motorcycles gradually fades into the distance, leaving Sunset Cove wrapped in a soothing silence. The dust kicked up by Vance. Iron Jaw, Malone's gang, slowly settles on the narrow road, blending with the soft, golden light of the descending afternoon sun. The townsfolk who had stood frozen during the confrontation now erupt in cheers and applause. A few approach the Rock, their eyes sparkling with admiration, while others linger at a distance, whispering about what they've just witnessed. To them, this wasn't just a fight, it was the moment Sunset Cove's peace was safeguarded by a true giant. The Rock stands in the middle of the road, brushing dust off his gray tank top before slipping it back on. He kneels, stroking Titan's head as the brown Labrador wags his tail gleefully, acting as if nothing had happened. Rex, the German shepherd, sits upright beside him, his sharp eyes still tracking the direction where Vance and his crew disappeared. "Good job, boys," the Rock says, his voice warm and low. "Time to rest now. Akadituarm." Titan lets out a cheerful bark, while Rex tilts his head slightly, as if ensuring all danger has passed. Tommy races over, his eyes blazing with excitement, his sketchbook clutched so tightly it's crumpled. "Uncle Rock, you were awesome," he shouts, bouncing in the street. "I've never seen anyone take down those guys that fast. You're a real superhero." The Rock laughs heartily, bending down to Tommy's level and ruffling his hair. "Not a superhero, kid," he says, "just a guy who keeps his word. See that? Sometimes you don't need to hit hard, you just need to hit right." Maggie steps out from Seabreeze, hands on her chest, her face still tense but breaking into a relieved smile. "I never thought I'd see something like that in Sunset Cove," she says, looking at the Rock with gratitude. "You just saved this town from a heap of trouble. I don't know what to say except, thank you, Rock." The Rock winks at her, shrugging. "No big deal, Maggie, just a light workout." "So what now? Who's up for a lemonade?" "My treat." The crowd bursts into laughter, the sound echoing down the small street, dispelling the last traces of tension. Hank, the older man from the nearby table, stands up, leaning on his cane as he approaches. "I told you," he says, his voice deep but satisfied. "Him being here was our luck. Those punks won't dare come back, not after the lesson you gave them." The Rock nods, shaking Hank's hand. "Hope so, Hank. But if they do, I've still got a few moves to teach them." Hank chuckles, shaking his head. "I believe you, son. I believe you." From a distance, the sound of a police siren cuts through the air, and a white patrol car rolls into town. Sheriff Clara steps out, sunglasses covering half her face, her hand resting near the holstered pistol on her belt. She scans the scene, the empty road and the crowd gathered around the Rock. "What did I miss?" she asks, her tone calm but edged with frustration at arriving late. Maggie steps forward, summing up the story in a few quick sentences. Vance's gang, his arrogance, and how the Rock took them all down without breaking a sweat. Clara raises an eyebrow, sizing the Rock up from head to toe. "So you did my job for me," she says, a rare smile flickering across her lips. "Looks like I don't need to step in now, but next time, give me a heads up a little earlier, all right?" The Rock laughs, extending a hand to shake Clara's. "Promise, Sheriff, but I'd bet those guys won't be back. They just learned Sunset Cove's not a place to mess with." Clara nods, a glint of respect in her eyes. "I'd say so. Either way, thanks. This town owes you one." As the crowd begins to disperse, the Rock leads Titan and Rex back to Seabreeze. He sits at his usual table, ordering a lemonade from Maggie, and watches Tommy scribbling furiously in his sketchbook. "What are you drawing, kid?" he asks, taking a sip of the cool drink. Tommy looks up beaming. "I'm drawing you fighting those guys. I'm going to make a story about you. A giant who protects the town. I'll tell all my friends at school." The Rock laughs, clapping him on the shoulder. "Nice. But don't forget to add Titan and Rex. They're heroes too." Maggie brings out a tray of biscuits, setting them down for Titan and Rex. "On the house," she says, winking. "After today, you two deserve a treat." Titan wags his tail, snatching a biscuit right away, while Rex sniffs it first, eating slowly with his usual composure. As the sun begins to set, the Rock decides to take a walk down to the beach. He lets Titan and Rex run free on the sand, watching them play with the small waves. He sits on a large rock, chin resting on his hand, reflecting on the day. He hadn't come to Sunset Cove looking for trouble. He'd wanted rest, peace. But when trouble found him, he knew he couldn't stand by, especially when it threatened the people, or dogs, he cared about. Tommy runs up, plopping down beside him, holding the model fishing boat he'd fixed after Spike dropped it earlier. "Uncle Rock," he asks, voice curious, "how come you're so strong but don't brag about it? Guys like Vance are always showing off, but you don't." The Rock looks at Tommy, then out at the sea, where the red glow of sunset spreads across the water. "Real strength doesn't need bragging, kid," he says slowly. "It's in here," he taps his chest, "and in how you use it. Vance thinks strength is bullying others, but I think it's protecting what matters. Get it?" Tommy nods, not fully understanding, but trying. "I'll try," he says, smiling. "I want to be strong like you. Not to fight, but to help people." The Rock claps his shoulder, laughing. "Good man, keep that spirit, and you'll do just fine." As darkness falls, the Rock stands, calling Titan and Rex back to his small wooden house. He glances back at the town, where lights from homes and sea breeze begin to glow, painting a warm picture against the night. Sunset Cove is peaceful again, and he knows he's helped keep it that way. The next day, the town buzzes louder than ever as the Shark Festival officially begins. Craft stalls line the beach. The smell of grilled fish and live music fills the air. The people of Sunset Cove still recount the tale of the giant who drove Vance's gang away, each retelling growing more dramatic. Hank sits at Seabreeze sipping tea, telling anyone who'll listen. "I told you, he's not just big, he's strong inside and out." Maggie, busy serving customers, smiles every time she recalls the Rock taking down Vance without a drop of sweat. "I've never seen anyone like him," she tells a patron. "No anger, no noise, just strong. If those guys come back, I bet they'd run before he even stands up." Tommy brings his model fishing boat to the festival, entering it in the craft contest. He tells his friends about Uncle Rock. The man who taught him strength isn't about showing off, but acting when it counts. "He told me to add Titan and Rex to the story," he says, pointing to two small drawings beside the boat. "Because they're heroes too." The Rock doesn't dive too deep into the festival. He stands at a distance, watching the cheerful crowd, holding an ice cream Tommy insisted he buy. He smiles, seeing the people of Sunset Cove enjoy their day, free of worry about men like Vance. He knows he'll leave soon. His vacation won't last forever. But he also knows he's left something behind. A lesson, a memory, and a bit of peace.